Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 7 of the GPVWC Supercup season for 2013. We're here at Montreal once again. My name is James Kirk, deputising for Nick Rowland, but as ever, alongside me, I have Mr. Philip Cullen. Now, we've got a couple of cars not present here today, including, I believe, we've got one target car, Lapala, not here today. But, looking at last outing at Monaco, we had Pavel Loknovsky winning, of course. Ryan Walker almost extending his championship lead, taking second at Monaco. And looking at the times currently in qualifying, he's looking strong here once again.
Indeed, nice to have you back here with me again there, James. Yes, actually, just as we were talking there, Giuseppe Ranieri is now topped the timesheet to 1:22.1, 4/10 quicker. So, as I even talk, Oscar Hardwick now just pops up right in front as Hardwick and Ranieri go back to duking it out. But yes, Ryan Walker, the Cinderella story keeps on going after a great result in Monaco, where his chief championship rivals in Hardwick crashed out and Lapala didn't show up. So it was a happy day for Ryan Walker, who is a commanding lead in the championship at this point, and has to be definitely considered a serious contention as we head into the second third of the season.
Indeed, Walker currently on 103 points by our reckoning from James Shepherd, who's still in second after his hugely dominant first quarter to the year. Don't count out Loknovsky, Grimseth and Hardwick though. The three of them are within 5 points of each other. And though they're quite a way behind Ryan Walker, what we must remember is that Ryan Walker is yet to win a race. You know, he does keep on plugging away at those points, but you see Hardwick at the top of the timesheets now, and you know, I think Monaco, it must be said, was very much a one-up for some of these drivers. You know, you're not going to see many retirements throughout the year, and maybe that was, you know, one to get out the way, and perhaps this is a chance for all three of them maybe to try and eat in on Walker's impressive championship start to the year. Currently P3, so still in with a chance of getting some good points from qualifying at least, and we've got 9 minutes to go or so. A lot can still happen as there's Sindri Grimseth going into 5th, and Morten Wernersson's just put in a great lap actually for Vod Bull P4. I remember talking about him last time I commentated indeed on Supercup on the Spanish Grand Prix, and I don't think he finished in Monaco, but he certainly
He did, he was actually on the podium there.
Oh, was he really?
No, we did only have 9 finishers, so that obviously helped, but it was a great, Wernersson was one of the stars of the race, so he's obviously on the crest of a wave of confidence right now, and you know, himself and even Patrick Gatewood there in 5th as Roy Schreiten actually slots into 5th. You know, we've actually got the top 3 are within 4/10 of a second of each other, and then we have, you know, a rather big gap back to 4th. And some of those names we were just talking about, like Grimseth and Loknovsky, are actually a second down. Now, we'll probably expect them to improve in the final 8 minutes of qualifying here, but there's a few names kind of sunk in the field right now that we'd expect to be a bit higher.
Yeah, CSG looking very strong actually. They currently lead the Teams Championship on 161 points, and Target Racing, well, they had such a strong start to the year, and well, Lapala's not turned up to 2 races in a row now, and although I would have said originally that would have left them open to attack from Innovision, as you rightly say, I mean, Loknovsky currently their top driver in 8th, not looking too good for them, but possibly looking good for Satellite, who are in 4th. They're only 3 points behind Innovision, and with Walker in 3rd, and their second driver for today, David Nichols, in 13th. That's 2-point finishes, well, in qualifying at least. But there's one factor which we have to keep an eye out for, Philip, today, and that's, although it isn't present in qualifying at least, we have got a chance of showers, and of course we had showers with the Formula Challenge race yesterday. It proved for a very interesting start to race 1. There were people crashing on the start and finish straight, let alone further onto the race, and of course rain can catch out anyone.
Yes, we've seen in the earlier events that how much the weather has played into it. In fact, I remember sitting here and watching Ryan Walker led Sepang because of the way the weather was throwing down and people were reacting so quick to it, and we have actually had a run of races where it hasn't played into effect, so you know, a few drops of rain is likely to give a few scares here and there to some people, and they're going to be wanting to think, you know, not probably react too quick, because if it is, like you said, only showers, might be able to get away with staying on your slick tyres out there, and you don't want to be making an additional pit stop for a set of tyres you're not going to need.
Absolutely. Better lap from Pavel Loknovsky. He's currently slotted himself into P4, but still, I mean, I'm looking at Oscar Hardwick's time. He's currently a second still, ahead of Loknovsky, and a lot of people were tipping Hardwick as a potential and most likely race winner around here at Canada, and he's certainly putting evidence behind him to support that. At 1:21.8 is currently 3/10 ahead, 4/10 ahead even, of Giuseppe Ranieri, who's had a pretty good, I can't, once again, I do apologise, I'm not sure whether he actually finished the race in Monaco, but he's, he's another one of those people who, we could see do well. I mean, he did extremely well in Spain just a month ago, with so many overtaking moves is stuck in my mind throughout that entire month. And it must be said, there's quite a few up the corners here at Canada where you wouldn't expect people to go through, and somehow I think he's going to throw up a little bit of extra spice into the mix today.
Indeed, of course, in the previous races we've seen that he had been mired back in the field, but he started up top in Monaco, and again in this brief time in the race he made a couple of daring overtakes before it all eventually did go wrong for the Italian. But him and Hardwick up front, that's I think what we really want to see. We want to see the two of the fastest guys in the Supercup up there battling it out for supremacy. As Cindric Grimstead finally puts in a good lap and gets into fourth, but he's still a second off. You think the first three are covered by 3/10 of a second, and then we have a massive gap of 6/10 of a second back to the rest of the field. And when you do look at the names like Grinzev and Lognoski, Shorten, that are kind of in that kind of pack, you're kind of thinking you expect a little bit better out of these guys at this point.
Or perhaps it's just the case that the three up front are just that little bit better for the track. I mean, of course, it must be said that some people just do prefer certain tracks, and maybe this is one of those tracks that Walker, Ranieri and Hardwick excel at. But looking at this situation, I mean, that's actually exactly a second behind Hardwick. If you are, say, Grimseth or Loknovsky, and you're looking at that gap to Hardwick, what sort of stuff are you thinking about? Surely the podium seems so far away at this stage. It sort of does lend a bit of confidence to know that you're that far behind, in a sense.
No, never helps, and you do try and think, I think there is a mental gap that if you can get yourself at least under the second, you kind of feel a little bit better about yourself. But these will be the guys who will be hoping for that little sprinkle of rain and be hoping for a good start, maybe making the jump. Because when we do look at the pack behind, from Grinsept in 4th up into Davicos there in 10th position, they're covered only by half a second. So we've a really tight grouping of guys behind that before we have the next kind of group of guys. So, I mean, there's some serious points to be had there. And while the podium might at this point seems far off, just look at what happened in Monaco, and there was no bad weather there, and we only had 9 finishers when we would have expected that at some of the rain-sodden races. So Montreal is that kind of track that does spring up a bit of a surprise. Actually, this was the one race last year that was not won by a driver driving for CSG or Tarn Motorsports. It was Andrew Morgan won here about a year ago for Waterloo Racing. So, I mean, anything can happen around Montreal, as has been seen in real world instances. And so we'll just have to see. We've 3 minutes left of this qualifying session. As some of you probably know, it is 8 o'clock when we usually start our races, but we had a bit of a server hiccup which has delayed things, and that's why we're running a little bit behind schedule, but hopefully we won't be too far after this session when we get things started.
I think we're going to have a bit of a condensed practice session, aren't we? Well, that's what we hope anyway. And then we'll have 45 laps of racing action to bring you. Should be excellent stuff, but we still have 2.5 minutes left, and there's still a possible couple of surprises to jump up. Giuseppe Ranieri now within a mere 200ths of Oscar Hardwick, and Ryan Walker's improved as well. He's improved to 1:22 dead, only 2/10 behind the leads, and he's just about to finish his current lap now. I'm just going to see where that improves him. No, it does not improve him, and people are going to be reaching the limits of their talent, I'd assume, around this moment. This is when everyone truly gets into the momentum of things, of course, unless you've had a crash or something. But, they really do get to the track. A little bit of rubbering is, can help them. Maybe going on to new sets of tyres to try and find that extra little bit of time to help them move up the order. But your current order at the moment as it stands is Hardwick from Ranieri, Walker from Gatewood. Where on earth did that come from? A 1:22.7 from the Multiforce driver there. He's knocked down Grimseth to 5th, Loknovsky to 6th, Bernison to 7th, Roy Schroten's in 8th, Parker 9th, and George Stabakos rounds out the top 10 for Centurion Racing.
Yeah, it's for a few names like Tom Parker actually down there is rather surprising. But like I said, he's in that tight group. But we've a minute and a half left. These guys are going to be winding up for one final chance. And as we said, it was another good performance there by Gatewood. We have seen in qualifying, he's shown a lot of raw pace. But unfortunately, we've seen the poor guy fall backwards over a race distance. And hopefully this is one of these races. He's racing alone here tonight. There's no Mino Clant in the second Malta Force. Unfortunately, had to call in sick, and team owner Jason Musk has been unable to find a replacement in time for this event. But so he's out here all alone for the 2011 Supercup team champions.
It's actually been quite a prominent problem in the last week or so. Some top teams really struggling to find drivers to fill vacant seats. I know that Tom Parker's PB Racing for Super Cup was struggling to find a man to fill in his seat for this race as well, and even I believe Halcyon, your own Halcyon Racing for the Super League are struggling to find a seat as well. And well, as we were saying that, Oscar Hardwick's just blown everyone out the water. He's just set a 1:21.4, now 4 tenths clear of Ranieri, and well, qualifying's pretty much done and dusted now, and I think that may very well be game, set and match. But look at Roy Schroten there. He's had a last little fling at the line. He's managed to post a 1:22.5, taking himself into fourth, and well, CSG looking pretty dominant here at the moment.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I said, a few tenths, and he's still a second off his teammate, 1.1 seconds to be precise. But obviously, in that tight group, all he needed was a slight improvement, and he's bumped himself right up, and he'd be looking, staring at the rear wing of his teammate and Ranieri, and especially going into that first corner around here in Montreal, you're going to want that extra space going into it. So he'll be delighted with that performance.
Ryan Walker's pulled into the pits, so he is not going to improve. I'm just having a look at Ranieri now. He's locking up all over the place, though, so I think we can consider him out of the running as well. And so I think it's quite suffice to say that Oscar Hardwick has absolutely blown everyone out of the water to take pole position here at Canada for the 2013 GPVWC Super Cup round here. And indeed, yep, Ranieri does just come into the pits. So to quickly go through the rest of the top 10, we've got Walker in third with Schroten fourth, Gatewood in fifth and Lochnoski sixth. He was able to actually out-qualify Grimseth in the end, who's in seventh. Morton Burnton, another good qualifying from him to see him in P8. And Georgios Stabakos at the very last was able to out-qualify Tom Parker there for 9th and 10th. A couple of people weren't actually able to set qualifying times in the form of Scott Bennett and Tommy Koivunen. That's a shame for Scott Bennett, actually, because he's been looking to have some signs of improvement for the last couple of races, but he just never seems to come together for the Englishman, unfortunately. And once again, he's going to be starting in a position where he's going to be very much hampered for the rest of the race. There we go.
Yeah, we're just hearing there from our cameraman that Scott has actually asked to start at the rear of the field so he can change tyre compound. So we'll assume, since he's currently seen with red marked tyres on, that he will be starting with the yellow marked tyres. We'll go through little things like that actually while we wait for the start of the race. If you're new to the GPVWC, we run with 2 tyre compounds, much similar to Formula 1, that we have the red marked tyres, which are the softer, faster option tyres, but obviously they wear quicker. And then we have the yellow marked tyres, which are said to be slower, last longer, but obviously, depending on track conditions, are not the most ideal. Like Formula 1, all drivers have to use both compounds in the race. The only time that this doesn't come into play is if they have to bolt on the wet weather tyres, which you'll actually see some people bolting on right now because in warm-up, it's starting to rain. So if they at any time have to run on the wet weather tyres, they don't need to run on both compounds. Like I said, much like Formula 1. If you're interested in knowing a little bit more about all this and even a bit more about what we're doing, please feel free to visit us at www.gpvwc.com or check us out on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. Hopefully I'll get the Twitter account up and running for anyone who wants to send any tweets our way.
Even tweet my personal account if you like at Captain Kirk F1. And perhaps we'll get to addressing some tweets later on in the broadcast. I don't think we do tweets far enough. need a little bit more user interaction here. And of course, as we're on Daily Motion, we have no chat box beside us to have a little look at that. So yeah, feel free to send in your tweets. We may get to them at the end of the race. Actually, that'd be quite a nice thing to do. Perhaps if you've got any questions for the drivers, maybe after watching the broadcast, might be worth having a look at them as well. So yeah, we have probably a truncated warm-up for you at the moment. Currently in wet weather. Does not mean necessarily that it'll be wet weather for the race, but I certainly think it'd be interesting to see what these guys can do around here in wet weather, and well, hopefully it won't be as destructive as Monaco, but yeah, you never know with these things, and hopefully we'll be able to see some good racing nevertheless. So let's have a little talk about CSG here then. Obviously double DNF at Monaco, really not great for them, but they still do lead the constructors, and Oscar Hardwick is in with the shouter trying to catch Ryan Walker, currently 52 points behind. And since Oscar's actually taken pole position, since Roy has taken fourth, real chance for them to catch up on the points that they missed here at Monaco. And what sort of mindset is the team manager going to be going through at this stage? Because obviously a huge disappointment. I think yourself and Nick were saying like this is the first time two CSG cars have DNF'd in years, and it must be said, in all their incarnations. What's the main message going to be to these two as they take to the track?
Well, usually I'd say finish the race, but I'm sure the orders are simple to Hardwick. Win. I mean, that's the expectation that will be in CSG, and of what they would expect out of Hardwick. Obviously, since he's joined up, he's been highly impressive. Won races, and had he kept it on the island of Monaco, probably would have won that one too rather handily. So I'm sure even Hardwick's probably got a bit of dented pride in wanting to come out here and make up for those lost points. I mean, he has about 2 less races than everyone else on the calendar. So he can't really afford to be slipping up like that when he wants to chase down this championship. I mean, I know Ryan has a healthy lead, but at the level that Hardwick we expect Hardwick to score points over the course of the season, he should catch him, possibly. But, with mistakes like at Monaco can't really be tolerated for his championship challenge. And I think the same for Roy. I mean, Roy's had a difficult enough start for the year, and he came in with a lot of promise and expectations after a great second half of the season last year, and he hasn't quite all hooked up quite yet. And Monaco would have been a good chance for him to try and at least get some points on the board, especially after Hardwick retired. But he's another one, and starting fourth is good for his confidence. But this is a team that are expected to bring home the driver championship and team championship, and anything else would really be a failure for the team. So high expectations for them.
Yeah, Roy has been showing promise. That's for certain. I keep on harping back to his second place at World GT in Austria. It seemed to jumpstart almost his championship challenge across the entire GPVWC board. And I remember back to Spain once again when his defensive driving was absolutely, I mean, even you can believe, what happened to him. He's like he completely changed. But I say nothing really hooked up, and in that same race we were lamenting the fact that his actual tyre strategy was flawed, and he came across the line with a tyre that was completely deflated. So fourth, it's great to get, but obviously he will need to finish the race. Obviously he needs to try and get everything hooked up in order to get his championship in Supercup underway well and truly. And well, who knows? He might be only playing support gunner to Hardwick for the moment. I think that's possibly what everyone's expecting him to do now. But let's see what happens. Let's also have a look at Target, currently second in the Constructors. I mean, they're in a real bit of worry here. Lapala was looking like the main sort of threat, I say, to early championship leaders, along with Grimseth. Really strong driver pairing, actually, Grimseth and Lapala, and yet here's one of them not present at not just 2 races, but Lapala wasn't present at Spain either. And it can only be hurting their chances of challenging for Constructors' glory. Yeah,
I think everyone kind of thought Target coming in with Petter running it and kind of thinking, this is going to be, I suppose, unofficially, let's say, the proper replacement for Torrent, in terms of the Torrent versus CSG battle. But obviously, it has not worked out for them, and Lapala not showing up. We can expect his championship challenge is more or less over. And Grinstead, the last 2 races have been not great for him. I mean, obviously, this is his first full season of international competition, we need to remember. So, yeah, but as we go to the race, it is raining, ladies and gentlemen. So,
Lovely.
Remember all that talk about tyres? Just throw it out the window. At least at the moment, anyway, in terms of having to run on both compounds, as everyone will be bolting on the blue striped wet weather tyres. Ladies and gentlemen, as they're about to head off on their formation lap, this is going to get interesting.
It certainly is, and Oscar Hardwick's going to be leading us off on this very, very interesting race on pole position for CSG, followed by a very impressive qualifying from Giuseppe Ranieri for Scuderia Basilia. What can he do from there? Both quick drivers. Well, let's see what the Italian can do. Ryan Walk, third. He's keeping in there at the top sharp end of the field. What points can he get from today's race? He's closely followed, though, by Roy Schroten, who'll no doubt be keeping Walker very much in his sights to try and help out Oscar Hardwick, try and extend an early lead. Patrick Gatewood from Multiforce, qualifying from him in 5th position. He's followed by last race winner, Pavel Loknovsky, still away off the lead. What can he do from there? He's followed by fellow championship challenger Sindre Grimseth, and another good qualifying from Bodwell's Morten Bernison, currently on the high at the moment. Let's see what he can do from 8th. Georgia Stavakos for Centurion is in 9th, with Tom Parker for Street Fighter in 10th. Then we have Andres Petstovs for PBD Motorsport in 11th, with Nico de Koning for FA Racing in 12th. Calvin Hermser, oh dear, he's fallen off into the stand. I can only assume that he's not bolted on wet tyres. So for Fox Racing, he'll be starting from the pit lane. Then Mark Wicks for Street Fighter, Martin Bolgan for Scuderia Basilia, David Nichols, Walker's teammate for Satellite Racing, Wayne Reed for FA Racing, Dan Russo in 18th for Bod Bull, William Tringus in 19th for PB, Tommy Koivunen, I believe he's new here to the Supercup today, for Centurion, Dmitry Demulmeister, fellow Fox Racing candidate in P21, and Scott Bennett has taken to the track, but he shall be starting in P22 after electing not to set a qualifying lap in order to change the compound tyres, although I fear that was all for nothing, really, given that it's raining.
Pretty much. Actually, just touching on Kermsa there, it looked like he just pulled over. He did have wet tyres on him, but you're talking about Tommy Koivunen. It's his first race of the season, but he did race here last year. But he's obviously, then it was always dry weather. He's actually come out on the dry tyre, so there's a lot of inexperience and unpreparedness there as they're heading, coming around to line up. Just to touch on getting in touch with Twitter, the official GPVWC broadcast one is at GPVWC Live. Get in contact with us if you want to talk to us throughout this race, and we'll try and give you a shout out as the final few cars come around the last corner to line up.
Nerves are going to be rising, that's for sure. I don't believe we've had a full wet GPV Super Cup race.
Oh, we had a Sepang, so...
Sepang, there we go, right, so this will be our second race, though, and I'm certain that a lot of people aren't going to be very happy with it whatsoever. The final cars just line up in their boxes now, and we wait for those lights. They come on now. The engine revs will rise, and here at Montreal, it's lights out, and away we go, and lightning start from Oscar Hardwick there. Giuseppe Ranieri also, well, I don't know, a lot of people were very slow off the line there, it must be said. Giuseppe Ranieri overshoots turn 1, a lot of people are overshooting turn 1 as a matter of fact, and as we go round the first couple of corners, it's also sorting itself out, but massive start from Oscar Hardwick there. Absolutely bolting off into the distance. This Ranieri, though, still in second. Great start from Gaywood, currently up into third. Walker's fallen to fourth, Schroten to fifth. Grimseth is up to sixth, and is that big contact there in the back? Oh my goodness me, it's 3 cars wide for 8th, 9th and 10th. That's Loknovsky, Bernison, Koivunen in there as well, Parker in there. All a bit maddening, but so far great start from Oscar Hardwick. Already 1.4 clear of the rest of the field.
It's amazing from Koivunen. This is a man on dry tyres. He shouldn't be able to do that right now. But yeah, I think everyone actually made it through rather clean. Looking up and down the field, I don't see any damaged bits and bobs of any cars. But amazing start. We saw a lot of shuffling around there, as Grim said. Vernison were some of the losers there, and actually Dimitri Dumais one of the bigger winners. He's up to about 13th right now. So all set and go as this race kicks off.
Right, so Hardwick and Rainieri pretty clear at the moment, but let's have a little look at P3. Patrick Gatewood currently holding off Ryan Walker. Slow start from Walker, but Gatewood just does not seem to have the pace, and already Walker's having a look to the inside of Gatewood, and well, that's pretty much a done deal. Walker's up into third once again, and Gatewood, after his great start, has been shuffled down to fourth. And by the looks of his pace at the moment, it looks like he might get a bit shuffled down further, but look at Tom Parker there in P6 as well. Great start for Street Fighter.
Exactly, they'll be delighted with that. And Mark Wicks in 13th as they all come across for the first lap. No one coming into the pits now, so that's obviously a great sign. You know, we would have expected bad weather, and it's been a long time since they've had to start in the wet, that we might have expected some bumps and niggles, but no, we haven't gotten anything there. But a few bit bumps and runs as Gate was a bit wide there, as going along with speaking of it, I think Koivunen had it off. Yes, I just seen
Milmies is off. Yeah, that was a poor rejoin from Koivunen. Unfortunately, he spun and then he kind of clipped Mark Wicks, who almost had a domino effect into Demulmeister, and Demulmeister's ran again. Oh, what's happened to Tom Parker? Tom Parker's gone.
Oh dear. Just got it coming out through the out of the first section, and got it bit on the grass. Usually there's a bit of tarmac there on other versions of it, but not so today, coming out of, what was it, through 5 heading into turn 6 and smacked the wall, and that's it. Thanks very much, Tom Parker.
Koivunen spun again. I mean, he clearly hasn't pitted, and I think that's going to be race very soon over, unfortunately. Dan Rusu's also in the pits, presumably with worries. And yep, Tom Koivunen also at the race. That's 2 retirements already as we're on lap 2 of 45. Oscar Hardwick, though, coming down, about to start lap 3. And oh my goodness me, Rainieri really unsettled coming out at the final turn there, as was Gatewood. And I'm not sure whether it's just me, but I think Walker's starting to catch on Rainieri at the moment. A couple of people now really caught out by the weather, it must be said.
Well, I guess most of them, even if there's a chance of rain, are probably doing a lot of preparations. As Davicos and Vernison are battling out. Look, I think Davicos got it a bit arseways coming out of the final chicane, had to run over, and obviously was affected by that. And Vernison did get him on the line due to straight line speed, but Davicos kept to the inside and kept the position over Vernison, so good move there by Davicos to maintain it. But yeah, I suppose a lot of time people are preparing themselves for dry and are hoping for dry, and I suppose you often see it. Wet weather starts coming on the server, most people were restart the server, you know, they're not getting a lot of time in the wet weather, so I'm not surprised that a few people are being caught out, even though there was obviously the weather report saying, yeah, it's most likely going to see some sort of rain. Probably weren't expecting the amount of rain that's fallen though so far right from the offset.
Indeed, Dimitri Demulmeister also a casualty of first lap incident. Such a shame as well after a great start up into P13. Nevertheless though, we're on lap 3 of 45 and Oscar Hardwick's already lapped poor old Dan Rusu. But yeah, he's currently leading by 3.8 seconds from Rainieri, who's been able to extend the gap to Walker once again to a good 2 seconds or so. Patrick Gatewood still holding his own in 4th currently for Malta Force, with Roy Schroet in 5th, Sindre Grimstead 6th, Pavel Loknowski. I mean, he had a couple of weird laps there, but he's back up into 7th. And yeah, good stuff from George Stavkos, but as I say though, he's just cut the chicane, unfortunately. Morten Bernsen is now back up into 8th, and it's going to be work all over again for the Greek as he tries to get past Bernsen.
Yeah, taking candy from a baby, but at least there have been worse anti-cuts there in the past, so at least it's one you can survive. Obviously one thing that these guys are going to have to be very careful of is how hard you push your tyres. Is as I'm just watching Rainieri here, and that I'd say he is a driver who is on the ragged edge at times, looking at the way that car is moving. I think that's why it makes them so good to actually watch. But one important fact that they'll have to be mindful of is actually not overheating these tyres. So something we'd seen previously with the wet tyre was that if you end up pushing them too hard, that you'll end up going to burn through them a hell of a lot quicker. So it's something we will have to keep an eye out as the race goes on, that maybe some guys are only going about 7, 8 tenths as quick as they can, as they're just being mindful of the tyres, making sure to keep them in optimum position, because if you get them overheated, you're more likely to spin off because it'll lack a grip, and trying to get them back down into a workable state is pretty hard, and it's going to take you a couple of laps. So this was something that we saw Ryan Walker actually excel at there at Sepang in the early stages, that he was out longer than most other guys and made a strategy work for him, which allowed him to get that podium in the end. So as I said, it's going to be a bit of a chess game right now. It is a bit spread out a bit. I think the Vernus and Davicos battle is probably one of the closer ones we have actually right now, but as time goes on, we're going to see how this all plays out, and we'll have to keep an eye. I think the rain is slightly easing up there a little bit, so obviously we could still see some dry running by the end of this hour.
Absolutely. I think I completely missed this, but Scott Bennett from P21 has already found his way up into P10, an astounding start from the Innovision driver. And although it must be said, I mean, we should be expecting one pit stop, even if it completely rains throughout the entire thing. The tyres will still wear. It's not completely unlimited use, and so we should be expecting at least one pit stop from everyone. And so strategy still has its part to play in this race, and for the likes of Scott Bennett, who's made this incredible start now, you know, he's only an is that Davicos out? Oh dear.
It is.
Davicos has gone as well. What happened there?
It looks like, just kind of where Panis had crashed, going through, heading up towards 5 and 6 there. And looks like he got just a bit too much curb, lost the arse end of the car coming out of it off the curbs, and it sideswiped and bang into the wall. Lost his pretty hard smack actually for the Greek driver, and it's a shame. It was a good qualifying and a good race up to then by Davicos, so I'm sure he'd be bitterly disappointed. He was looking on for a good haul of points there for Centurion Racing. So, and that's both Centurions actually out of the race now, so
yeah.
Unfortunately, as we're down 4 cars already.
All this is good news for Scott Bennett, though. He's up into P9, and as it is for Mark Wicks as well. His teammates out, but Mark Wicks is currently in P10, and is that David Nichols gone as well? Oh, dearie me. So that's Ryan Walker's team out, and goodness, we've lost 5 people within 6 laps.
Yeah, just looking at Nichols actually there. I was going to say he came out of the pits with no front wing, but it looks like Wall of Champions. I can see debris down there, and it looks like it was a fairly hard shunt into. It was indeed actually. Got on the curb, and obviously the back end kicked out, and he spent the whole home straight going down, and then pulled off the end of the straight. So at least fair juice to him. He did get the car off the road, but yes, we're down to 17 runners already, which is a bit of a shame. See, we saw a better run in this in Sepang, but probably the tight confines of what is a semi-street circuit here at Montreal is taking quite a bite out of some of these drivers.
It is indeed. Let's actually have a look to what is promising to be a bit of a battle here. We've got Pavel Loknovsky, not looking like the strongest driver in the world at the moment, currently in P7. He's actually got Morten Vernonsen catching at a rate of knots in the Vod Bull car. And just up the road there, in P6 is Sindre Grimseth. So these 3 cars starting to Constantina back.
And Roy Scheuten is just up the road as well from him.
He is
Really out of targeting range. And all you need to really do is see the spray off someone to give you that little bit of motivation to push on.
All 4 cars there, pretty much, within range, and obviously if one of them makes a mistake, that's going to benefit everyone behind, and whether you like it or not. I mean, you look at Dan Rusu now, currently at the back, he's 1 lap down, but if 2 more cars retire from this race, and Sindre Grimseth goes very, very wide, but if 2 more cars retire, Philip, he's going to be in the points. And there's actually Loknovsky taking the position from Grimseth, and actually, no, they're going to be side by side. Or maybe not. I think no, Loknovsky does indeed have the position, but Loknovsky's not looking like the stronger driver out of these 2, so hopefully we'll be able to see a little bit of clean battling in the next few corners to come.
Yeah, Grimseth ran wide there at turn 1 and had to rejoin, and that's what's allowed Loknovsky to get by. And as we said, the Danish driver Vernonsen there behind, he's been he's been looking extremely racy. Himself and Vod Bull have gelled really well, and Vod Bull have been bringing themselves back up to the rankings rather well now. Obviously, after many years away from things, they've been re-established themselves. And in Vernonsen, they've found a very capable driver who showed a number of times last year some flashes of really good driving. Seems to be really starting to hook it all together now, which is very good to see.
On the podium last race as well, so certainly a good little run for Morten as he goes onto the back straight here. Good little run actually. And in the slipstream of Grimseth, we'll just have to see how much he can catch up, of course, going into the chicane. I know a lot of people will be certainly the chicane's going to be less appealing and overtaking manoeuvre than perhaps in the dry. But Vernonsen doing a good job here in P8. We're on lap 8. We will be going on to lap 8 of 45 once these drivers cross the line. And certainly the battle between Grimseth and Vernonsen is the closest as we head up towards turn 1 once again. Grimseth taking his line nicely, but he's not been looking very happy in the first sector so far. And indeed, look how much Vernonsen has caught up in the 2 turns there already. He should be thinking now, look how bad Grimseth is in this sector, I should say. Perhaps preparing for a move next lap. There's still plenty of time to go, so perhaps it might be time to, well, conserve the tyres even, you know, see whether you can make a longer stint work for you.
Yeah, you also have to remember this is now Verneson finally getting up behind someone for the first time in a while, and you've got to take into account what the driver ahead of you, where their points are, and you have to remember when you see, you know, obviously we have to factor in the wet weather as well. What you might get away with in the dry, you're not kind of going to get away with in the wet. And as we've seen a number of cars already spilling off the road by just getting too much curve and being a bit greedy on the throttle, they can't afford to do that either. And when you see someone that close, you can't afford to get that throttle on just that little bit earlier in the hope of getting up and getting by them. So be very careful there. It's got a case of 2 cases. Oh, sorry. I just see Martin Bolton going very slowly actually to back. I wonder if he's whacked the suspension somewhere, because he has actually a good hard whack to the wall, and the way the car is listing over to the side there, look at just some suspension driver damage on the second Scuderia Pizzaglia car there.
Yes. Oh, good news for Bolgin. He was looking for some good points there, and Calvin Herms has just passed him there into P15. That's going to be points gone, unfortunately. And well, let's hope he's not another retirement as Hardwick comes to lap him now. Just having a look up at the battle for P6, 7, 8 again. This is probably the closest battle on track, and it's not exactly like all these drivers are confident in these conditions. We've seen Loknovsky make a couple of mistakes over the past 2 laps, Grimseth the same, and I think the case for Morten Verneson at the moment now is not necessarily that he's making mistakes. He just doesn't want to get caught up in anything which could possibly take him out of the race. You know, it's so easy just to lose the rear end in wet weather, and if that happens, then, you know, God knows, you know, collateral damage is often the case. So possibly safe for Verneson to be keeping the gap he is keeping. Let's just have a little look down the field. Apart from that, I really cannot see anyone who is close to each other. It's a very spaced out field, though possibly for good reason, as there they pass the stricken Bolgin. Yeah, I believe that, well, he's trying to get desperately back to the pits, but I fear that may be race over for him.
Yeah, it'll have to see, but he's probably also thinking, well, there is only 17 cars left in this race, and if I can get that car home, there's a good opportunity, as Wayne Reed is the first person to actually make a pit stop. Hard to know if it's actually a scheduled one. Actually, he's been in there for a while, so I reckon there's a bit of damage on that FA racing car, but just going back to the mindset of the guy who's probably in that battle like Verneson, is that you can actually look up the road and you can see 5th position, and you know, as you said, you make a mistake and suddenly you're going to be out. It's like Noski runs wide into turn 1 there, and Grimseth has a bit of a look but not much, leaves the door slightly open for Verneson. The meat and the sandwich has to be very careful what kind of move he does attempt, because any mistake and any opening the door is going to let Verneson to have a look. But these 3 now a good bit closer, and I'm sure Roy Shorten will be thinking to use this as some sort of advantage to be able to pull away a little bit, but he's only 2 seconds up the road. He hasn't really pulled away from these guys, so this hopefully, as Grimseth looks a little bit like he might have a bit of a run, but no, this is a bit of a short straight here, so he's not going to have much to get out the end of Lugnoski. He'll probably have to wait till the back straight now in a few corners time. He's going to have to hope he can just stay close to Lugnoski as they head into the hairpin here.
Yeah, Loknovsky's not been looking, well, that's the second time I've seen him go wide, actually, at turn 1 and turn 2, and this is actually the closest I've seen these 3, certainly for the past couple of laps. Loknovsky really starting to struggle, and Sindre Grimseth is certainly right on the back of him now. He looks to the inside, and he ducks back in again. He's going to try and get a bit more slipstream. One would think that he's going to try and make the move, but no, I think
Loknovsky... touch!
No! Oh, dearie me, and, well, that was not very, well, yeah. It's difficult to say, it was wet weather, but...
Well, that's kind of what I meant now when I was saying you have to kind of judge yourself when you're actually coming up behind someone. That everyone does have their own braking points, and you've got to factor the weather in on top of that. Maybe that's something he might have gotten away with in the dry by stamping on the brakes, but he didn't get away with it here in the wet. Luckily, both cars come away unscathed. There's likely to be a bit of damage on Grimseth's cars. He runs a bit wide going into turn 4. He just have to be careful and just maybe take a lap or 2 just to get a feel for the car and where that damage is actually putting him. sometimes you can get away with a knock like that and there won't be that much field or difference to the car, but it could fundamentally change how it handles, particularly in these conditions. So he'll have to just be mindful to something like that in the next few laps.
Yeah, what's that meant though is that Bernardson is indeed up to 7th position. Though it must be said, he's not really making much impression on Loknovsky. I think he just doesn't have the pure speed around the circuit he'll be able to catch up to the likes of Pavel at the moment. I think he's also quite lucky in the fact that, well, Sindre might very well have a bit of front wing damage. That's at the least I would expect from the collision there. So, yeah, once again, these three drivers pretty close to each other, but yeah, the wet weather really catching out Sindre there, and obviously losing a position, not the best of things to do at this early stage in the race. We're just going to be going around this final corner, and actually, Roten's looking quite close to these guys, and oh dear, there's a bit of debris there.
That's from Nichols' car. Yeah, I noticed. I don't think I've seen Grimshead drive through it without damage. So I presume it's just a bit of phantom debris there. But just the NASCAR guys would love that, a bit of phantom debris and everything. But one thing I actually did notice with Lognosky and Grimshead there, it would seem that Lognosky had a greater top speed, so that might indicate he's running less wing than Grimshead. And I was wondering, maybe we'll have to keep an eye on maybe if Vernerson gets close. But that was why obviously Grimshead had to pull back in after having such a good exit out of the hairpin, that he had to pull back in because Lognosky was starting to pull away from him and he needed that slipstream, and obviously that's something that ultimately ended up with the little touch there. But we'll have to see as we see Vernerson is starting now to make a little bit of inroads into Lognosky now. We'll see if he can get close, see if he can actually outrace the Innovision car to the final chicane.
Loknovsky Sector 1 is where he seems to fail at the moment, and we see Sindre Grimseth there. He's really starting to fall back now. The damage quite evident, and well, I think I would agree with you on this. I think Loknovsky's running lower wing, and hence why his Sector 1's not as good as everyone else. But Bernardson seems to have put together quite a good lap here, much closer to Loknovsky than he has been in the last lap or so.
Yeah, let's see if he can, take into account. He's probably got a little bit of slipstream. Does he take that into account into the chicane? He does. Gets a bit on there. So easy when you got that little bit extra speed. You don't brake that a little bit earlier to counter it, and you end up spiraling off. But yeah, Roy definitely looks like he's actually fallen into them. I suppose the gap is kind of looking the same, but he's a bit wide, a bit tentative there. You are missing nothing up front. Oscar Hardwick continues to lead from about 7.5 seconds from Giuseppe Ranieri, who is 10 seconds ahead of Ryan Walker, and who is 10 seconds himself ahead of Patrick Gatewood. A great performance so far from Gatewood. He's managed to avoid issues, and now out on his own is probably able to concentrate a bit more like a qualifying lap, and he's about 8 seconds in front of this little melee that we have been watching. So one actually thing we need to keep an eye on, as I said, where Grimshead's beginning to fall back, is that we'll have to keep an eye to see how far he might fall back into the clutches of Scott Bennett, who is still running rather well in 9th position.
Yeah, he's a good 13 seconds down the road though, is Scott. So still plenty of barrier for Sindre to go into. But yeah, I'm more concerned about the pace of Roy Schroten. His gap was about 2 seconds or so ahead of Pavel Loknovsky. Now, well, it's actually about 1.1 seconds as we go onto the back straight here, and he's really not looking happy as Roy. He's looking quite slow, it must be said, and he's looking a bit defensive even, as there we go, we've got Loknovsky trying to break Bernardson's slipstream there as you go into the chicane once again for the 14th time. Bernardson though, keeping with him, and he's only got to try and keep that pressure on Pavel to be able to force him into a mistake and hopefully take that position. We head now into the first couple of corners. Once again, Loknovsky goes very wide. He's done that a couple of times, and you can see just how close Bernardson can catch up in these opening 2 corners. And he's had a much better exit, actually, of turn 2. And he's going to have a little look to the inside. Nothing doing there, though, for the Danish driver as we now head into the end of the first sector. But he's
good
right on the back of him, yeah.
Just nowhere to overtake around. That's the biggest problem, without taking a gigantic risk. And I can remember pulling a move off there myself on someone, but that was with hot tires versus cold tires. You would be a bit wary about trying to jump out from behind someone. But Vernerson, if he can maintain how close he is right now up until after the hairpin, he might have a shot. But it wasn't the greatest there chicane, the second chicane there. So he's going to have to work hard to try and get himself into a a window of opportunity here down at the hairpin.
Still pretty close though. It must be said, and
Very
look at
close
that.
now. He just needs to get the power on. Just don't be too greedy on it, but let's see now if he can get some sort of tow. We'll get an idea. Yeah, it looks like he's in the slipstream now, so let's see if his wings are a bit shorter now than Pavel Luknowski's, as we see him closing right up behind him now. Is there enough time? He's going to look to the right, but no, I think he's going to play it safe. He's going to give him a look as Luknowski runs wide on it.
Oh dear. And that should be positioned to Bernardson. Indeed it is. And the pressure has worked. Bernardson now up into P6, and with Roy Schroten only 2 seconds up the road once again, it's, it's pretty plausible to say that Bernardson can catch Schroten if he manages to maintain this momentum. Certainly looks much stronger than other drivers around him in this weather.
I'm kind of wondering if Bernardson is really dashly in the skies here, because it seems every time he gets up behind somebody, they end up going off, either crashing into the back of someone or actually running one of that we've seen it with David Coast now, Grimset and Luknowski. So maybe he's got an extra panel on that steering wheel that's allowing him to push some people off the road that we're not seeing.
It's possible. I mean, I was just saying, he was looking stable. He had a real tank slapper there on the exit of turn 6, I believe it is. But yeah, I think it's just a case of pressure. And especially when you consider, you talk about drivers not really having that much, whether it's not much care or not much time to practice in wet weather. You only need the slightest bit of pressure, and you get forced into a mistake, which is all the more easier in wet tracks. I mean, you can see how much he's already closed up on Roy Schroten this lap
sorry
alone.
to go across you there, James, but Brian has just made a first pit stop, so he's the first of the leaders to make his pit stop here on lap 15. So obviously he'll be going back on the wets. The track is too wet to actually go on any of the dry compound tyres, but looks like a solid stop now. You have to be very careful on the exit here, because of the rather unique nature of the corner, the exit, that the exit line runs around a little bit of the second and third corner there, but make sure he keeps himself clear of the line. He's only dropped the fourth, so he found himself a nice little window that he shoots out in front of Roy and Bernardson.
And Bernardson, look at Bernardson. Yeah, look at Bernardson here. He's really, really hampering the back of Schroten. Sorry to go across you, but Bernardson really on the back of Schroten now. He cut down the gap to a second last lap, and that gap is now down to about 1/10 or so, as Bernardson has to dodge to the right-hand side of Schroten there. Look, he's all over the back of him, is the Dane. And Schroten
it's going to happen
here.
Oh, dear. Let's see who's braver. I think Bernardson, if he sticks it in there, he could probably outbrave Roy, but no, Roy keeps good defensive line. But all Bernardson needs to do is just try to take his time and just try and line Roy up either down here or on the next straight. But obviously he'll be wary wanting to get this done before Luknowski starts to close up. Look, you can just see the confidence that Bernardson has right now versus, I say, Roy probably, he's either shot his tyres or he's shot the confidence in them. Because you can just look at, Bernardson!
Oh my goodness
Oh
me.
Dear. And that's going to let Luknowski have a good proper run at him, and I'd say Luknowski might even have a chance to breeze by him now by the end of the straight. We were talking about just how easy it is to just get a little bit greedy when you're behind someone like that. And it didn't work out there like Bernardson, and he's now, next time he gets up that close to Roy, and I say when because it's going to happen pretty soon unless Roy pits, he's going to have to worry about Luknowski, been there if he does make that kind of error again.
That was heart in mouth moment for Morten Bernardson. And it's just a wonder. I mean, look, he's already on the back of him again, but you wonder how or why Roy has not pitted yet. I mean, surely if the tyres are shot already, you should do the sensible thing like Walker and just, pit and get a fresh set of boots.
Yeah, well, especially since Roy is the first for pits, I suppose it'll all depend what the strategy the eggheads at CSG have got up in mind. Maybe they can see this as a longer one, but he is struggling that badly. He's going to fall back badly now. I mean, Bernardson is going to be the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we can see that Luknowski there, even a wounded Grimset is likely to pull up very quickly on it. But I'd say, Bernardson, let's see if he's learned from what happened last time round. I said it was also a bit too greedy on the curbs and on the throttle, so he just needs to keep it calm because he's going to get such an exit, I think, off it that any kind of advantage so you can just see on the brake and what he can do.
Oh my word, he's right on the back of him.
But he just needs to take it nice and calmly now and just get alongside him because he'll have the confidence just to outbrake him. He just needs to wait for Roy to brake and then just go half a second, even a tenth of a second, a bit longer.
Here we go, coming up to the chicane once again. but still, nothing doing for Morten Bernsen. He stays behind.
He's got to be brave.
Roy, but yeah, here we go. He's going to, definitely a better exit. Through a tyre he goes. He looks to the inside now. And Roy is going to pull up again. And look at this. He's really hassling the back. But Roy's putting his car in all the right places. And Morten can do absolutely nothing. I mean, look, he's even trying to go around the outside. And he still can't do anything. He's got a much better exit, though. And Roy's just going
Morton
to keep
just
on
needs to have a
defending.
set of balls here. He just needs to actually just throw it down. Lack of a better term, but he just needs to really just throw it down because he's now got like Notsky crawling all over the back of him. Oh, he's a wounded animal. You just need to really just outbreak him even by the smallest bit, and he's going to be by him. He's been a bit tepid on me. I suppose you always want to show respect for your fellow racers. He just he's not going to give him an inch though.
No, and Roy certainly, we know his defending traits in Supercup, and can he try it around the outside here? No, he can't. He's still got, and a little bit of a love tap, and yeah, you're absolutely right. Loknovsky is right in the mix there as well, and Morten has got to do something. He's got to stick it somewhere, otherwise he's not going to get anywhere in this race. Roy Schroten, though, still holding on to 5th position. You've got to commend him for the fact he's actually warding off Bernsen for the moment. But let's see whether Morten has got a good run out onto the back straight here. He certainly seems to be doing okay. But one must think that Roy just had a better top speed than Morten. I mean, he can't seem to do anything here. When he looks out to the right, he's still not past Schroten. Oh, and as Patrick Gatewood has pitted, I think.
Yes, yeah, he's in the pit lane right now as these two flash by. Sorry, we're engrossed with this battle right now, but want to bring as much action on the track as we can. Yeah, Roy had enough of a gap there that he really didn't have to defend too much going in through there. So, you know, he's just, like I said, you just see him in the traction zones. Roy is like, you know, it's as if Morten is on dry tyres versus Roy on wets. Really, he's kind of got that feel to it. But he's just got to try something right now because otherwise he's going to get stuck. Gatewood there came out in 8th position. He's actually right up behind Grimset, so he'll be hoping to dispatch him as quick as possible. But as I said, we're sticking with this battle as it happens. Morten not quite as close this time round, so he's got one thing he does have to make sure of. He doesn't get frustrated now, and that's pretty easy when you're behind a car. You know you can get by, and as we can see, Roy is not going to be nice as Roy runs wide now.
Oh,
see, this is why you need to stay on him, stay close, and try to take advantage. You know, there's an error. There was an opportunity to at least get himself alongside and make the move work, but it's not to be had. Come on, Morten, you can do it.
I tell you what, Pavel Loknovsky ran wide as well. So it was a double helping for Morten. You know, no pressure from behind. Someone messing up in front, and he's still not able to get past him. And we're onto this back straight once again, and he just does not have the straight line speed to be able to outmatch Roy here. He's got to stick it down the inside or somewhere. Oh, here we go. He pits. Yeah, so strategy in the end, calling Morten Bernsen in, and Pavel Loknovsky and Roy Schroten are left to sort of roam free, as we see there in the background. Sindre Grimseth and Patrick Gatewood coming through. Yeah, it's a wasted chance. Or maybe, in fact, you know, maybe Morten had this in mind. Maybe he thought, you know, I'm going to be pitting in a couple of laps' time. Why waste my tyres trying to get past these guys?
That's no excuse. No, honestly, that's not a good enough excuse because the time he could have gotten, you know, gained by actually staying out there and actually getting ahead of Roy and being able to pump in some rather quick laps. Let's have a look at his last few laps. You know, he did on the 15th lap of the race, he did a 1:30.0. His following laps were 2.5, 1.5, and 3 seconds slower than his best. So that gives you an idea of, you know, he lost about 5 or 6 seconds pissing about with Roy there. So that's what it comes down to, and those 5 seconds could be vital in the end of this race. You know, those 5 seconds would have. Where is he right now? He's in 8th position. He's now nearly 10 seconds behind Gatewood. That gap would have been halved if he'd gotten by him. So that's, I suppose, it's cruel and it's harsh, and it's easy to sit up here as a commentator and say it. And believe me, I've been in the racer's suit and had similar sort of things happen to me, and having to, you know, hindsight is always a better thing. But I think Morten will be looking back at this and probably thinking, I should have done something a bit sooner, a bit more aggressive.
All is fair in love and Supercup, and Morten Bernsen's certainly going to be letting that one lesson for sure. Of course, you know, you've still got a good 20 laps, you know, good 24 laps or so to go for this race, so still plenty of opportunity for Morten to move up. As you rightly say, you know, something has to give. And just having a look at where everyone is now out on track, Sindre Grimseth has just pitted. So Gatewood has been let through. Lochnovsky and Stroughton also clear into clear out, and there Vernonson and indeed Scott Bennett have passed Sindre Grimseth. So Sindre Grimseth comes out in what will be 9th. Mark Wicks is a little bit behind to be able to do anything, but I mean, look at this. Mark Wicks is being lapped by Oscar Hardwick. That leaves the top 9 only on the league lap at the moment. Though, that said, Oscar Hardwick is yet to pit.
Yeah, I would be thinking at this rate, as Ranieri is actually in the pits as well on lap 20. So we'd have to question, is Hardwick going to try and push it for a one-stop at this point? I mean, we're just about there. Even Ranieri looks like we've seen the past few races that he had finished that his strategy was a bit off kilter, but you would wonder, unless it's going to be a late stop, that Ranieri and Hardwick are likely to be one-stopping here today, unless there's a severe change in the weather, while maybe Walker will be pitting for a second time. We'll have to see. That is something that could actually bring some of the others back into play, depending on how tyre wear works out, as Roy goes on for another lap.
And Pavel.
So I'm definitely thinking these guys are thinking one stop. Maybe that was their plan for the dry and they were sticking with it no matter what. And, you know, that gives you an idea. You know, Vernonson now will be, 18 seconds behind Roy. And if you think about it, if he doesn't, if they're all on the same strategy now, Roy has to get past them all again. As Rain Reed has just retired, we've actually gotten a good bit through after a spate of retirements in the first 4 laps. We've had a good bit of a gap, but no, this time Wayne Reed, I see him in with minus a left front wheel, so obviously an accident there somewhere on track. So we're down to 16 runners at this point.
Oscar Hardwick has just pulled into the pits as we were speaking there. But yeah, one more retirement and everyone scores points as long as they finish. Just to look at Ranieri. Ranieri's just coming down the back straight now. Oscar Hardwick has finished his pit, so one would imagine, yeah, he's going to come out clear into air. And if this is his plan, I mean, he's pretty much cut it half and half. Oh, he's a good 10 seconds or so ahead of Ranieri there, so nice little gap for Hardwick, to come out into. We've got Walker there in 3rd. Stroughton and Pavel. It's going to be interesting to see where they pit. Whether they pit on this... well, they would essentially be pitting on the same lap as Hardwick. And actually thinking about it, Roy Stroughton and Hardwick are of the same team, so perhaps this is the time to pit? No. No, both of them go through again. I'm questioning their tactics here. I really am, because surely they've missed the opportunity now to have a decent stop and to have a good chance of making up some ground on fresh boots. This is really starting to dig into their times now if they are planning on pitting later in the race.
Yes, because even if Walker is stopping a second time, Walker's going to be, he's on the same strategy, let's say. We'll have to see. I can't imagine he's going to do 2 or 1, given how early he was the first of the stoppers, stopped around lap 15, so we'll have to see. But obviously in thinking about trying to chase down Patrick Gatewood's only 4 or 5 seconds behind these guys right now. So I mean, I don't think Gatewood's tyres are going to fall off that much. I'm trying to remember, he pitted a few laps after Walker, so there was a bit of a gap, so he could technically push it. I mean, he's in enough of a window that he could coast around at the end on those tyres if he needs to. And also, seeing how Roy has actually struggled on those tyres, actually he's just started to post some of his better lap times now, but it's probably low fuel is also to be countered into that one. So as just at the hairpin, Roy all crossed up and Lugnoski right behind him. If I was Pavel, I really wouldn't want to be stopping on the same lap as him, because it's going to hamper your entry into pit lane, because you're going to have a car right in front of you trying to block your points. So if I was Pavel, if I was planning to pit, I'd be pitting 1 lap after Roy if at all possible. As Pavel, no, I thought he was going to come in there, but it looked like he was slowing down enough to merit an entry. But it's very interesting.
I'm just looking at Morten Vernonson here as well. I mean, we're looking at pit stops. They say about 20 seconds or so.
Yeah, it is a quick pit lane, because you don't have to negotiate the final chicane and you don't have to negotiate the first corner, really. So it's actually one of those pit stops you actually don't mind getting a pit lane drive-through, because it's actually nearly as quick if you for that than actually taking to the track. You minimal time loss around here. So
I'd still say that Vernonson's probably going to jump these two at this rate. they're just holding each other up. And I mean, look, you just see Loknowski going wide there because he was caught out by Schroten. They're just hampering each other's times at the moment. They're not helping each other whatsoever. And I mean, you see Gatewood, he's catching on them pretty much every lap at the moment. Only 5 seconds behind at this rate. And he doesn't have to worry. He really doesn't have to worry unless these two are non-stopping.
No. I don't see that. I'd eat my hat for it if I had a hat. But I don't see that happening. I'd be very, very surprised for anyone to zero stop. It's not really a strategy conductive to a 1 hour race, and I don't think there's been enough practice done by people on wet weather tyres to think, yeah, they'll last an hour. As Pavel closes up under the slipstream Pavel's going to just about held it. Nearly entered the wall of champions there in a rather interesting style, but well held by the Estonian there, earning his money's worth there. Might have to change the underwear after that one too.
Indeed, that was a scare, but I'm intrigued to see what they're doing. I really can't see how this strategy is going to work. I mean, we go back to the same point. I've said multiple times that one of the things which has let Roy Schroten down this Supercup season is his pitting and his tyre strategies. They always let him down, and it just seems like another strategy doomed to fail, and Pavel Loknowski's almost been drawn into it with him here. As you say, the prime time, if he wants to beat Schroten, really is to pit the lap after him. But at this rate, they're just wearing each other out. They won't be able to do much on their out laps or their in laps.
Yeah, and I think Grimsted's pace hasn't been that great since his pit stop. He's about 10 seconds off Wernerson, but as you said, let's say about 20-second window for a pit stop. That's going to put them right where Wernerson is, if it does turn out like that. It'll be interesting to see if, as we are now at 20 laps from the finish, and see, I don't even get a strategy from thinking, right, let's try and keep the tyres as fresh as possible, because we've seen someone like Wernerson keep his tyres rather fresh, while even at this point, even at the 20 lap point, that these two were rather shook and pits, and Loknowski goes on. Okay. So let's see what Pavel can do over one lap, possibly more, as Roy pits, and let's see where, as Gatewood goes by, Wernerson is still coming down.
Sure, Wernerson has to overtake him, surely.
Well, it is, like I said, the pit lane can be to your advantage as Wernerson comes out of the last corner. Now, he's going to shoot past Roy Schreiten at the moment, but as we said, he still has to negotiate turn one, as Schreiten is going to get off his limiter right now. He can see Wernerson ahead and negotiate in turn one, as they're going to come out nearly side by side. Wernerson should have it, and he does, and, well, we'll have to see how it all plays out over the final 20 laps of this race, but right now, Wernerson's call seems to be the right one. Now we'll have to see what Pavel has to answer with.
And what only could have happened if Wernerson had not been held behind by Schroten for so long. He would have been even further ahead. And so, yeah, right strategy for Wernerson at the moment. And of course, he's had these tyres heated up now. He's not having to tiptoe around them like Roy is. Let's have a look where Loknowski is. He's just going to enter the final back straight. But perhaps we could just give a quick rundown of the top 10 as they are quickly for the viewers. Currently it's Hardwick still leading by 11 seconds from Ranieri, Walker, Loknowski, Gatewood, Wernerson, Schroten, Grimseth, Bennett in 9th, and Nico Dukoning for FA Racing. Good drive from him currently in the top 10. Loknowski goes round again though. That's interesting. I would have thought they would have pitted to cover off Schroten. Not the case. He's clearly on a different strategy, and you must wonder how far he's going to go on these tyres, because he's not been looking happy all race.
No, and don't think it's going to stop raining. At least not enough. He could be on a zero stop. I know I scoffed at the idea, but I'm not saying it's completely impossible. If it was, his pace was actually rather good up to this point. We'll have to see, but there is little point pushing it on beyond this. Now the guys are on fresher tyres behind them. There's little point actually going and trying to see how far we go. As his teammate Scott Bennett actually had a little bit of a half spin out of hairpin, letting Ranieri by, lost position there to Nico Dukoning. So we'll just have to see what Pavel does, and if anyone actually happens to have a line on whether Pavel is trying to zero stop, please feel free to let us know and put us out of our suspense here. But he's soon going to have Patrick Gatewood coming up on behind him. Just a quick word there on what Roy's been like out of the pits. He's about 2 seconds behind Vernison, so we will keep an eye on that and see if he's able to make any kind of inroads on the Vod Bull car there for 6th position.
Pavel Loknovsky just coming up to pit entrance, and okay, here we go. Pavel Loknovsky pits, and so we'll be able to see the true extent of whether his strategy has paid off or not. Presumably Vernison will pass him. That seems to be the case. Gatewood obviously goes through into 4th position again. He retakes that position. Here comes Vernison. He's on to the start straight now. Roy Stroton there as well. Where is Loknovsky? Loknovsky's finished his pit stop. Vernison's passed him on the straight. And I believe Vernison will overtake Loknovsky, but Loknovsky is ahead of Stroton. So in the end, the strategy working for Loknovsky. Stroton the real big loser here once again.
Yeah, I think Roy actually had to negotiate the lap car William Dringus. Wasn't that much in it that would have cost him some time, but I will admit I'm slightly surprised there that over the extra few laps that Loknovsky managed to make the jump on Roy. Would have expected on the fresher tyres, particularly how long these guys have been running. Pavel perhaps hiding away some of his pace, but he did set laps that were comparatively close to his quickest one now. But he'll be happy enough at that he's managed to clear Roy. He just needs to try now have a mistake-free final few laps of the race, that he doesn't end up surrendering that position again. Though I would say it would be nice to see some overtaking. It seems whenever we seem to see anyone overtaking someone, it's either someone getting lapped or someone actually moving themselves out of the way for someone else, or a pit stop right now. So, well, lads, get a bit close and let's see some proper hard-nosed racing here.
Just a little update on the battle for the top 10. Mark Wicks has overtaken Nico DeConnick because DeConnick actually had to pit. So Mark Wicks for Street Fighter back up into the top 10. The only non-point scorer out at the moment is poor old Dan Russo for Vodball, currently 4 laps down. He's going to have to rely on someone to retire, and well, we've got 18 laps or so left, so that's my maths. 17, 16 laps or so to go. Plenty of time still for someone to make a mistake. Dan Russo currently your only non-point scorer for Vodball. The gap at the front is up to 12.6 seconds. I think it's going to be very hard for anyone to catch Hardwick at this rate. But fair shout to Ranieri, Walker and Gatewood. All of them have done a pretty stand-up job for themselves, keeping out of trouble, and they've really had no battling to do for this entire race. They've just had to focus on going around the track pretty much at a solid pace.
Yeah, easy to get bored doing that. When you're kind of in no man's land, there is that added adrenaline rush when you do see a car in front of you, or even if you see that gap coming down. The main thing is a lot of these gaps are staying rather stagnant. I mean, I've been watching Gatewood versus Vernison here, thinking that maybe with Morton in free air he might be able to catch, but really it's stayed. I remember commenting the fact that he lost about 5 seconds not pushing aggressively past Roy, and they would have cut the gap in half, but the gap is still about 10 seconds, so it was something that we saw in qualifying. That big gaggle of cars from about 4th down to about 10th were all more or less at the same speed, and it just seemed to have be drawn out like that you see these guys actually are lapping close enough to each other that they're maintaining the gaps that they have. Even Grimset with damage in tow, he's still consistently kind of hitting where the gap is staying the same. He's about 10 seconds behind Roy. That was what it was before the pit stops happened. So I know, unfortunately, it hasn't made for the most interesting races in terms of visual entertainment, at least on track. It's more of a tactical one going on here in some places. And as I said, we'll have to see. I think one of the bigger questions going forward is whether we're going to have to see Walker stop again because he stopped so early. Although even then, he does have he does just have about 20 seconds over Gatewood, so it could get rather tight there, but we'll have to see what Ryan does going forward. But the rest of them, like you said, we're going to have to see whether the fresher tyres on Loknovsky or Stroton are going to give them a late push to try and catch up on Vernison.
Yeah, I've been desperately looking throughout the field to try and find a battle to bring to you people, but there was a slight dash of hope when I saw Calvin Herms and Martin Bolgin together on track, and then I saw that they were 2 laps apart, unfortunately. So, as far as I can see, the closest battle on track at the moment is pretty much the one that we left before the main pit stop phase. Morten Bernardsen, Loknovsky, and Schroten, all about 3 seconds apart from each other, and I think it's very much going to be a case of tyre wear now. You know, whether anyone makes a mistake or whether someone's tyre wear is going to make them fall back into the clutches of someone else. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that Hardwick's running away with this now. The gap up to 14 seconds from Rainieri. Although it must be said, yeah, Ryan Walker is starting to pull back a bit now. He's up to 40 seconds behind the leader, and Gatewood's only 22 seconds behind Walker himself. So, well, let's see, we're on lap 32 of 45, so there's 13 laps left. I hope something happens for the pure entertainment factor. Yeah, it seems that this race is pretty much a race of 2 halves. Crashes in the first half, and then tactical tyre wear in the second, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I suppose one thing to look at it is that we did lose, what was it, nearly 5 cars in the early part of the race, so it did allow everyone to start getting spaced out. And with the weather and the fact that this is a semi-street circuit, that you're going to have people Roy is actually rolling rather slowly there. He's as I see Hardwick was lapping him there. I wonder whether he's tagged the wall somewhere, because even if I look at my replay, he's going rather slowly going down. And yeah, we're just hearing from our cameraman there that he hit the wall coming out of sector 2. I think was what turn 5 and 6 there. He hit the wall, and he's obviously not a major hit by looks of it, but damaged the suspension on the car, and had a spin there just in front of his before his teammate came along to lap him. And yeah, that's kind of summed up Roy's day. You know, kind of
summed up Roy's season, really. It's just never worked for him.
Yeah, I do feel for him, because Roy's he's a pure gent, and you know, I've had the opportunity to talk with him and battle him out. I've had a fantastic battle with this lad at Suzuka late last year in the Supercup, and you know, he's someone who's come on leaps and bounds since he's joined GPVWC, and you know, it's just such a shame that he hasn't managed to match what he and I think what everyone wants to see him do. And hopefully it'll be a quick enough stop now. He's going to lose out now to Bennett, and Wicks are coming up the road there now, and even he might get out depending on how long he's going to be in pits, but he's going to be down about 10th position by the time he gets out now. And obviously this is promoting Grimshead up to 7, Bennett to 8, and Wicks to 9th, as even DeConnick goes by. So it's Roy's going to be down, even Pestov. He should get out before Pestov, but obviously some major restructuring needed to be done in the back end of that CSG car to get it race-worthy again before they can put him back out on track.
Oh, this isn't looking good. Pestovs is just coming down the back straight now, and poor Roy still hasn't been able to come out. And no, I think even Pestovs is going to come out ahead of Roy here, unfortunately. Oh, here we go. Roy does leave the pit. Oh, he does. Yeah, he has finished his pit stop now. Pestovs will get ahead of him on the straight. This is going to be the closest battle we've seen for a while. Can Pestovs hold it? He's just coming around the first corner now, and oh, yeah. It's close. We have a battle.
Well, I was going to say he's lost a lap in total, because Lugnoski and just after going by him, so that just gives you an idea between damage, getting it back and getting it fixed. We're talking, they're lapping about 122, gave him a minute and 22 minutes, a minute and a half in total.
Oh.
Cameraman extraordinaire, Morten Wernerson has had a spin. We've just been talking about how he's been keeping it clean, and that has allowed Pavel Luknoski by. So all that hard work by Wernerson been undone there now. He's going to have to get his skates on if he wants 5th position. That's a bit of a shame after what has been a solid drive by the Dane so far, and even he's not susceptible to making an odd error or two.
It's a shame that the fact that we have battles now is because of mistakes of 2 top lads, and actually I thought we were going to have a lovely battle between Pestovs and Schroten, but Pestovs has pretty much let Roy through at the hairpin there, although he's actually right on the back of him now for P11 and P12. God, it's such a shame, but here we go. Pestovs' great run, because he went wide out to the hairpin. He's going to look to the inside of Roy Schroten now to go into the chicane. No, nothing doing this time around, I think that might very well be signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be that much of a battle looking at Pestov's time. Pestov's doing on averages 34s, 35s. Roy's more than capable of doing 31s and 30s, so we're talking night and day really in terms of, I think even Pestov's probably did the smartest thing and not kind of well, he is in no man's land, probably could have wasted a bit of time battling out, but wasn't going to make that much of a difference, and I'm sure Roy is going to be rushing on now to try and close down the gap to DeConnick. Probably going to be a lot of tense, over 10 laps. DeConnick is there in the hairpin while, Roy is negotiating there, 5 and 6, just where he's actually had his accident there now. But
got his teammate coming up behind to lap him for a second time.
That'll inspire confidence anyway.
God, I think back to the Formula 1 race last year when Lewis Hamilton lapped Jenson Button. That was only being lapped once. This is, unfortunately for Roy, this is pure humiliation, as he's about to be lapped twice now by his teammate, and, well, yeah, this is going to happen very, very quickly. Roy's still in the points. Let's not, take away the fact that he is actually still in the points. He's in 11th, so it's good at least on that scale of things, but this is, going to be really denting competence. You can see Hardwick saying, get out the way, and there he goes past, and, well, that's a shame for Roy. Looking back up at the battle between Loknovsky and Vernonson as well, I think that Vernonson's got damage there, because the gap was about 2-3 seconds, it's now up to 5 seconds, so I think there's been enough damage done to Vernonson's car to sort of lock him in that position for the moment. Sindro Grimseth quite a way behind him. I'd say he's about 3/4 of a sector behind Vernonson at the moment. So, yeah, not much to say, unfortunately. We had a couple of battles, we had a couple of incidents going on. And, Jeremy Vernonson looking quite dodgy under braking, it must be said. But once again, we're stagnated out, unfortunately. And Vernonson, actually looking at it, he is the last car to be unlapped at the moment in P6, so shows just how dominant race Oscar Hardwick is having at the moment, and I just seen in the distance there, Hardwick indeed catching up, so don't worry, we've only got about 8-9 laps left of this to go. But yeah, really a race of disappointment for many of these drivers, it seems.
Well, it won't be disappointing for Hardwick. I mean,
no.
This is man who currently, I suppose, with the race kind of where it is, gives an opportunity to even have probably a good gander at the championship. Right now, Hardwick is 42 points behind. If things finish as they are, he will gain 25 points. Ryan Walker, who leads the championship currently, will earn 16. So that's a 9-point swing in favour of Hardwick. So that'll put him, 33 points behind, which is actually where... which will actually put him, in clear second position, because he will outscore Loknovsky as well. So that'll put Hardwick in the clear second position, 33 points down. That's over a race win. Race winner gets 25 points here. So it puts him in shooting distance of him, especially when you think that we have 2/3 of the season. We're around 7 of 18 here right now, so we're closing in on half distance rather quick. But it's where Oscar Hardwick will want to be, and like I said, you have to remember he's had 2 less races than Ryan Walker, and this is what's going to be important for Ryan going forward. And that's why we've said from time to time that he is going to have to do some winning if he's going to be, if his championship challenge is going to last all the way up until the end of the year. It's going to require actually winning some races. He's been remarkably consistent, fantastically so, and that's why he is where he is right now, and been able to maintain it over the first few months of the season. But when you've got someone like Hardwick who's able to come in and win and not really throw away the points, and when he hasn't won, he was second in Hungary. It's only really the only blip on the record right now has been Monaco. And so unless Ryan can't really be hoping that we're going to get a wave of alien drivers in that are going to start taking points away from Hardwick, because they're also going to start taking points away from Walker. So Hardwick would, to me, is favourite for the title, and I say that with a lot of respect and a lot to Ryan. I genuinely wish the guy well, but Hardwick for me is probably the favourite, despite the fact that Walker is ahead right now.
It's quite ironic, isn't it? I mean, I would rate this as one of the more dull races of the... Oh, we have a battle! We have a battle for 13th here. Calvin Hermser and William Tringus have found each other, which is excellent news. The Fox Racing and PB Racing cars pretty close together, although I think Calvin Hermser possibly... I'm not sure whether he just overtook Tringus or whether Tringus is caught up purely on merit here, but we have a battle, and that's something better than we have been... Oh, and dearie me, Calvin actually quite bad out of turn 1 there. Tringus looking up the inside, and nothing doing there in Sector 1. But yeah, while we're enjoying this lovely battle for 13 and 14, I think I'll say, despite this being a dull race, for the majority at least, this has proven an extremely important turning point in terms of Supercup, because James Shepherd is now out the way. Pavel Loknovsky, Sindre Grimseth and Oscar Hardwick will definitely have outscored Shepherd in the total championship standings by the end of this race. Ryan Walker, of course, he's already passed him, but it's a clear championship battle now. You know, you got Hardwick, Grimseth, Loknovsky in the hunt to try and catch Walker, and I think you've pretty much, laid out the table as it is. If Walker wants to win this championship, he's going to have to win races now, because at the rate that the others are coming for him, it will not be long before they catch up. Loknovsky is a race winner. Hardwick is a race winner. I'm not sure, has Grimseth won a race himself? I don't think he has.
He wants Sepang.
He wants Sepang, right. So all three of the people behind him at this stage are race winners. He needs to get on that board as well. Otherwise, I do really fear that he will fall behind, and I support you in your view. You've got to say Hardwick has just been looking so strong ever since entrance into Super Cup that it'd be a bit of a blind man's bet to go against him as Tringus goes wide there in the battle for 13th and 14th. Calvin Hermser, I think, clearly ahead in this one.
Indeed, yes. As I believe actually Ryan, he either had an error or he did make that aforementioned second pit stop around lap 35. I see he was about 14 seconds off his usual time on that lap, so perhaps he did. We'll have to double check with him maybe after the race, but we'll actually confirm the strategy that we thought he might be on with two stop. But we're now looking at the top 4 at the last minute remaining on the lead lap. But going back, I think Ryan will beat Lugnosky. I think he'll beat Grimseth, because he has been consistently beating them in the last few. I know Lugnosky has won and Grimseth has won, but on average that Walker has ended up ahead of them, and that's why he is there in that position right now ahead of them, because both of those guys, if I remember correctly, have not missed races. It's really, as the community likes to call it, is the alien drivers, or the guys who come in that are blindly quick, like that we've seen with Rainieri and Hardwick. And I suppose that's the problem for Walker, is that he's not just losing points to Hardwick, but Rainieri is there in the middle causing more points loss. And I suppose when you're someone who, let's say, doesn't have this outright raw pace that some guys can come in and be blisteringly quick and win races, that you always start getting worried when more people start showing up, that, if you see new names on the server, you're like, okay, how quick is this guy? Because those guys can potentially start taking points off you. Something I've experienced a lot in my career is that you look for the new faces, see how quick they are, because you think, right, these are the guys who are going to start taking points off me, rather than, like some guy could come in and be, in around Ryan Walker's level and be able to take points away, but he wouldn't take points away from Hardwick. So that's another reason why Walker needs to be able to banging in a few race wins, if at all possible, to be able to maximise on being able to outscore Hardwick. But that's not to say that Ryan Walker's can't be champion or won't be champion, because ever since Australia he's been probably waiting along with everyone else for the Cinderella story to end, and it hasn't. I mean, this is, barring any disaster, is going to be another podium for the Scot. And like I said there at Monaco, based off the season that he had last year and everything going with it, if you would have asked him after 7 rounds that he'd be leading the championship or would have had a number of podiums, he probably would have laughed at you. And I mean, I said, it's been let's not take anything away from the fantastic turnaround that Ryan has had this year in his sim racing career.
There was a close... I mean, I will go quickly back onto that in a moment. There was quite a close call, actually. Just a moment ago, Patrick Gatewood actually pitted again. which means there's now only the podium sitters who are on the lead lap at the moment. But Loknovsky was looking extremely likely to get very close to Gatewood, but he went wide at turn 1. But he's still there in the background. I'm not sure how far behind he is exactly, because my R-Factor screen's now only got +1 lap. But Loknovsky is on a real charge, and he does seem to be catching Gatewood at a rate of knots, so there still could be a battle yet for 4th and 5th position as we have 4 more laps to go.
Yeah, taking positive at the rear end of the field. Dan Rusu, the odd man out, is no longer that. Martin Bulgin is that man now. Martin's obviously had issues because he's now 6 laps down. It's I think the 2 lads have been cut adrift really at the rear end. Up to 14's only 2 laps down, but we've the Dan Rusu 5 laps, Martin Bulgin 6 laps. But I suppose that's the thing with the point system that it is this season, that it is going to reward one of them with a point at this rate. But yeah, no, we have we'll have to see whether. I suppose the biggest problem for Loknovsky right now is that Gatewood will be on nice, fresh, clean tyres and with low fuel, and theoretically, as much as we'd like to see a bit of a close battle, we're unlikely to see one. We probably shouldn't unless Gatewood makes some sort of error down the line. But who knows? We have a few laps left, and maybe with enough cross fingers, we're going to get some sort of battle before we get to the end of this shindig.
We are on lap 42 of 45. Currently only 3 people on the lead lap. If you're just joining us, Oscar Hardwick leading from Ranieri by 19 seconds. The nearest man after that, Ryan Walker, almost a minute down on second himself. We've had 7 retirements. We've had 6 retirements from this race. We lost Dimitri Demilmis, Tommy Koivunen and Tom Parker on lap 1. David Nichols and Georgia Stavakos on lap 4. And then Wayne Reed on lap 18. But apart from that, the racing's been pretty clean, pretty solid. And currently your closest battle on track is Patrick Gatewood and Loknovsky, as we're now on lap 42 of 45. Only 3-4 to go now. We're almost there. It's been not the most exciting of races, but certainly an important turning point, as we have discussed. And actually, I think I will go back now to Ryan Walker. I mean, let's just look at it this way. If we get the next races, let's say we get Hardwick in first and Walker in third for the next couple of races, so that's a 9-point deficit that Hardwick is eating into. At the end of this race, he's going to be 33 points behind. That means in 3 races' time, if math does not fail me, he's only going to be 6 points behind Walker. So that really does highlight, how.
Oh, we actually have an accident actually on track. Sorry, I know to pump you in, but
yeah,
the Conic kind of going through 4 and 5. It's kind of a similar thing we've seen. Goose the throttle, rear end kicked out, and he's managed to lose the rear somehow the rear wheel fell off the car, so that will
the irony actually is he will not fall out the points, will he?
No, I don't think Rusu or Bulgin, so he'll have done enough laps to be classified, so
that's brilliant.
Yeah, we actually had this bit of discussion in Monaco, because a number of cars who actually finished in the points didn't actually earn them because they actually hadn't completed 75% distance, but
no!
Morton's been around.
Oh, and he's still around there.
Yeah, and he's let Ranieri by, and Roy is obviously a lap down, as I can see behind him, but it's kind of all gone Pete Tong for Morton Wernerson there. I mean, he's enough of a gap to Grimset, but you'd wonder, he was one of the first, well, not one of the first ones to pit, but he pitted a lot earlier and before the half distance mark. So as we did talk about strategy, and we talked about whether we thought that maybe he had played the right card, but obviously there are 2 ends to a strategy, and right now Wernerson could be at the other end, and this is where the payoff is not really going to work for him, is that he's now possibly struggling on worn tyres. Just keep an eye out on him here and see what kind of racing line he seems to be taking, and see if he's actually taking it a mite handy. But it might give a bit of confidence there towards Grimset to try and hunt him down over this last lap or so.
Yeah, it's not all over yet until the Fat Lady has sung. Nico Jaconic has indeed fallen back to P14, but Dan Russo and Martin Bulgin are far too far behind. So 2 points to the FA Racing man still, despite being in an accident. Such is the way of racing. I think it's worth focusing now on the man who is most definitely going to win this race, though. Oscar Hardwick is just about to enter, and is indeed entering the chicane for the 44th time. And he's going to cross the line now to go on to his final lap. Really, really dominant performance once again, capitalising on accidents and whatever else was happening behind him. He just didn't care. He had a plan. He stuck to it. And at present, he's 21 seconds ahead of the next driver. And as we said before, he's going to be eating 9 seconds into the gap that Ryan Walker has at the lead of the championship. And he's really going about his 2-race deficit in terms of how many races he has participated in completely the right way. He stayed focused throughout, and he's getting due payments.
Yeah, what words can you really say? It's been a faultless day for Oscar there, and it'll be job done. This is what is expected of him, as we stated earlier on, and it's what we probably expect, the viewing public probably expect of Hardwick. And just to say is this is about to head through the hairpin, go on to the final straight, as he actually runs wide there, so might have to take that faultless back. But obviously, if you've had a taste of here at the GPVWC, see what you like and want to get more involved in our upcoming races, join us at gpvwc.com and check us out on Facebook and Twitter.
Got Super League tomorrow, but if you're new and you fancy having a new idea or a new thing, we'll talk about it in a bit. Let's just focus on Oscar Hardwick because he's about to win the race. So, fabulous drive here from Oscar Hardwick of Canada. Wins in absolute style, 22 seconds clear of the rest of the field. Dominant performance by the CSG driver, and he moves 9 points closer to the championship lead. Second place, I mean, we call him one of GPVWC's most new, exciting drivers. We haven't had much chance to talk about him today, unfortunately. But there we go. Giuseppe Ranieri from P2 on the grid. Comes home in P2 in the race. Great job from the Scuderia Vasilio driver there. And, yeah, we were just saying how close the battle between P4 and P5 would be between Gabriel and Loknowski. In the end, only 1/10 separated them. But nevertheless, Gatewood did come home in 4th. Loknowski did come home in 6th. Of course, one man who has yet to finish on the lead lap is Ryan Walker. Once again on the podium. It's a great job by him. But he's 3rd. And at this stage in the competition, when Oscar Hardwick is bearing down on him with multiple race wins, some say that might not be good enough. We'll have to see what he can do next time out in Korea. But the 3rd place is certainly well-deserved for the Scotsman. Just to run down your other points finishers. Morten Bernsen came home in 6th after a couple of spins, with Sindre Grimseth a disappointing 7th, to be honest. Scott Bennett will be over the moon with 8th position, considering he started from the back of the field for Innovision. Mark Wicks was 9th, and Roy Schroten did actually get up into the top 10 after hitting the wall, having a bit of suspension damage. Andrzej Pestovs he came home 11th, with Calvin Holmes at 12th. William Tringus came home 13th, and despite retiring, Nico Deconic was still classified as 14th. Your final points finisher at the end of the day was Vernonson's teammate Dan Rusu, taking home a point for Vodball. Your only non-points finisher who finished was poor old Martin Bolgin, Ranieri's teammate down in P16. Your 6 retirements were Wayne Reed, George Stavakos, David Nichols, Tom Parker, Tommy Koivunen, and Dimitri Demulmeister. So, yeah, not exactly the most exciting race for the fans, but a well-deserved drive for, well-deserved win, even I should say, for Hardwick. And he seems absolutely over the moon in the chat box, so hopefully we'll get him and a couple of the other drivers in to have a little chat about the consequences on the championship. And indeed, let's have a little look and see whether we've got any questions from people on Twitter, because we have asked if anyone wanted to ask any questions.
Yeah, I'll have to have a quick look here now and write down our questions here for the final bit. So, but as you said, we'd great race from Hardwick. Ranieri just didn't have the pace today, but was faultless from him. And Ryan Walker more points on the board. But as you said, I suppose going forward would really be nice to see a lot more finishers in these races. And I do realise we only had 22 starters today out of potential 26, but a lot of guys messing up rather early there, but it'd be nice to see a few more fights for the last. Let's not make these final few points a bit easy for some of those guys to ride around and get some stuff. But I think looking down at some of the races today, I think a bit of a shout out there to Patrick Gatewood, who's finally managed to turn a good qualifying performance into a very solid race performance. Something we've been pointing out in the last few races, that he's kind of struggled to match up with the his qualifying performances in races, but good to see him actually come out of it and with a well-deserved fourth position in the Seoul Multiforce car there today.
Absolutely, and let's not forget he was able to hold off Pavel Loknovsky there on a real late charge. Only a tenth between them, but he was still able to do it. And let's just consider that Pavel Loknovsky is a race winner himself. He won last time out. He was on a high, so really good job, and really good to see Patrick up there. I mean, I think he had a lot of the spotlight taken away from him, especially after Mino Klont and his really good under-the-radar performances in recent races. But here we go. We've now got got two of the podium finishers here. Well, yeah, two of the podium finishers here with us now. Firstly, Oscar Hardwick. Another dominant performance there from you today. Not much to say. You finished 22 seconds out of the rest of the field. Was it calm, simple driving task for you, or were there a couple of times during the race which you were a little bit fearful of people behind you? Just give us your thoughts on how the race went for you.
I honestly didn't know what everyone's pace was going to be in wet conditions, so it was all a learning experience for me. I got pretty much the start of my life, which gave me about 2 seconds gap straight away, and I just worked with that and tested where the grip was and how quick I was going. It turns out that I did have a substantial amount of pace over everyone in the field, so fantastic stuff for me, and obviously when I don't crash into walls, things tend to go a lot better.
Awesome, and also let's just remember now that because of this finish, you've now eaten 9 points into Ryan's lead. The two of you are now separated by, we presume, 33 points if the standings of the site are correct. We're off to Korea next, Oscar. Is that a circuit which you're particularly comfortable with, or do you think that it gives chance to other drivers to possibly catch up? I mean, it's not exactly the easiest circuits to get your head around.
I've never driven there before. Is the honest answer. So I've got no idea. I'll be learning. It will all be a learning experience as soon as I turn a wheel on the track.
There we go. Right, so let's move on now to Ryan Walker, championship leader still. Now, myself and Philip were talking a lot about the people behind you. I mean, we're now looking at the fact that James Shepherd has been well and truly overtaken by the four main championship contenders as far as we can see. So we've got yourself, Loknovsky, Hardwick, and Grimseth. Now, the other three drivers there, apart from yourself, are all race winners, and fair play to you, got the podium, but is it slightly worrying now that you're not starting to win races, or is it something that you're just taking your stride? It must be kind of frightening in a sense to know that you're the only one in the top four not to have a race win at the moment.
I'm not really frightened, to be honest, or nervous. I'm just taking each race as it comes, and as long as I finish on the podium, then in my opinion I have nothing to worry about.
Alright, so it's constant podium finishes is the target then?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts then on Korea? Is this a chance? I mean, do you think you got podium pace there for the moment? Have you driven it? I mean, obviously Oscar hasn't. And possibly this is a chance for you to try and get the head on him at the moment?
I've driven on the track before last year in an endurance race, but I've never driven the track in open wheels, but I've got a wee bit of experience here, so that's a good thing. So hopefully it'll help me when we head to Korea in 2 weeks.
Alright then, thank you very much for your time. Let's move on to Roy Schroeden. Oh, Roy. It's been such an up and down season so far in Supercup. I mean, great qualifying to get into fourth, and then it all goes wrong during the race. What happened today, and obviously, are you going to be able to bounce back? I mean, it's very much seeming like every single race you seem to have some point to be really happy about, and then something else goes to ruin your day.
This season isn't going as I hoped it would be, but this was my own mistake. I drove a little bit too hard and a little bit too risky, and I drove in the wall and I got a puncture. So I just drove slowly to the pit. As Dave said, we needed points. So I just drove slowly and carefully not to hit anybody. And yeah, at the end I managed to get a top 10, but I am disappointed for the team, really.
Obviously, though, I mean, we're looking at career, and there are a number of drivers now that, I mean, I've been listening and looking at the TeamSpeak and stuff, who've not actually driven there in open wheelers. Have you driven there in open wheelers?
No, I haven't.
Ah! Well, perhaps it's a chance for you to get the jump on and probably get some early practice in or something.
Yeah, I don't know if I can drive that one yet, but I'm going to try, but I don't know for sure yet.
Right, well, unlucky sir, thank you very much for your time. And do we have Patrick Gatewood? Are you there, sir? Yes, you are. Excellent. Right. Well done. 4th is a brilliant result for you. Myself and Philip were saying, you know, it's about time that we've seen you fully live up to your potential. You must be surely, you know, over the moon with something, you know, as near to the podium as you can get.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually really excited about this race and how it went. I don't know if the rain helped with that. I usually feel more comfortable in the rain and things like that. But yeah, definitely just kept the pace going and wasn't getting past all the time.
Of course, you held off Pavel Loknovsky on a late charge, only 1/10 separating the two of you at the line. You know, the fact that you've been able to hold off there a race winner up until the line, you know, does this give you the momentum to try and go on for possibly, dare we say, a podium for career, or are you like apparently everyone else in the room and you haven't driven career in an open wheeler before?
Yeah, well, this is my first season, so but yeah, definitely a podium would be amazing. I was going for like a top 5 this race, and definitely was able to. Really glad that I was able to hit that. With Pavel at the end there, that was pretty intense. I had to make it close, I guess. I just kind of came off the chicane a little slow and hit the bumps there, and just was able to hold them off. Yeah.
Well, congratulations anyway. We'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. We're heading off to Korea, whether you like it or not, as a Herman Tilke track. It's sure to bring up some excellent racing, we hope. We're not sure whether we're getting rain there or not, but hopefully Nick will be back once again to see you in 2 weeks. I'm sure Philip will be back as well. I hope you enjoyed what you have of this race, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Goodbye for now.